Every year, millions of visitors flock to its stadiums and concert halls. Yet Arlington is not exactly a city that everyone has heard of.
Arlington is really the playground for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's where the Dallas Cowboys are. It's where the Texas Rangers baseball team is. It has the entertainment district with Six Flags Over Texas, which is a theme park. And it's a city of 400,000 people that sadly lacks identity because it's stuck right between Fort Worth and Dallas.
Today, Arlington is the largest city in the U.S. without a daily newspaper. But Gary Hardy remembers a different time. In 1996, this former journalist helped launch a major daily, the Arlington Star-Telegram.
This is where we had at one time a maximum of about 65 journalists in this building. It was a hub of a lot of activity, and literally these parking lots were filled with cars with advertising reps, with news reporters, with photographers.
The paper covered all things local, from politics to sports, like the day it sent out 30 journalists to cover a crucial game.
We wanted to cover anything that moved, so we had reporters who were walking around the stadium the entire time, and that's the way we approached any big story in Arlington. If we felt like we needed a dozen reporters to cover it, that's what we devoted to it.
The coverage was extensive, thanks in part to the parent company, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, which had to react to the launch of a new Arlington daily by its competitor.
On opening day at the ballpark, people were handed this extra edition of the Arlington Morning News as they walked in. At the same time, an airplane pulling a banner advertising the Star-Telegram circled overhead. The newspaper war is clearly on.
Gary Jacobson fondly recalls what was a golden age for local news. The former editor oversaw the birth of the competing newspaper.
These are the very first edition, front page, the very first opinion page, where I pointed out our mission, what we were going to do.
The paper closed down just 5 years later, a victim of fierce competition and online news, which changed habits and siphoned advertising revenue from local press.
This was a sad day, sad day. The very last edition of the Arlington Morning News. April 1, 2001. But as I look back on it, I think we were the last 7-day-a-week daily newspaper started in the country. It was the swan song of that kind of competition because you couldn't keep it up. You just couldn't fund it anymore.
Both newsrooms closed just months apart, signaling the start of a nationwide crisis. In 20 years, 1/3 of America's newspapers have shut down. More than 200 counties now have no local journalism, and it's still getting worse. Last year, the country lost an average of 2 papers each week. This communications professor says that has a double impact on communities.
Every time you see a story about this one community, it's always a crime or it's always something bad happening, you think it's a bad place. So news deserts foster bad impressions of communities, and they allow governments to operate without any scrutiny.
The unfair picture and a lack of accountability can heavily influence voters' decisions during elections. These days, Kaylee Broussard is the only professional journalist to cover Arlington. Today, she's interviewing an elected official for public radio.
All right, sweet friend, I'm so glad you're in here.
On a very local subject, speeding tickets.
There needs to be more reporters. I think the stories that I have taken on, I'm proud of, but I know there's so much that can even be, probed within those topics that I don't have the time, I don't have the resources to do on my own. I am better as a reporter when I have competition, and communities are better when they have more than one person.
For the past few months, Kaylee has been working in another newsroom financed by donations. The Fort Worth Report website was launched 3 years ago to breathe new life into local journalism. Thanks to its $2 million budget and 22 employees, the website was even able to launch a version just for Arlington.
And where there are true news deserts, people become much more hyper-partisan, much less civically engaged. Corruption goes up, taxes go up, a lot of bad things happen. I can't say, we flipped a switch and kept that from happening in Fort Worth and Arlington and Tarrant County, but we hear back from people all the time who say they notice the difference, they appreciate the difference.
It's a fragile business model, but it is spreading. The American Journalism Project, one of the founding partners, is financing some 40 other newsrooms like this one across the country.